fire. You can't catch us now. Running, yeah. Out here all running.
All right. Uh-oh, I got a wardrobe malfunction. All right, I'm good.
Don't be taking your top off.
I'm always looking for a reason.
Just calm it down.
I'm always looking for a reason.
I need to get you some of that tape, I guess. Huh?
I know. It's just a little odd here. A little situation.
Well, I wore my second collection of my. I'm waiting for you to rip on my dress today.
Oh.
I'm just waiting.
Yeah, like
I know
you just took a quick trip to Greece and then threw that thing on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for.
No, I think it's a great look.
It's the second in the collection of the Grecian cruise wear.
Yeah, your Grecian cruise wear is amazing.
You make fun of.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it looks great.
Well,
it looks good.
I like it.
Do you have any tzatziki over there I can have?
Yeah, I might make some Mediterranean later.
Yeah, do a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm in the mood for. A little bit. Or maybe you could just take me on an actual cruise to Greece. There's a thought.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
but it seems like you've already gone by the look of it.
No, I'm just preparing for it. Our anniversary's in October. Don't forget, okay? Just keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, no, it's a big one.
Thoughts.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's 19. Right. It's weird. 19's huge.
It's 118 years.
Yeah, it feels like it's much longer than that even. Okay, let's get to it here. Show you what's going on. We got a lot to get to. Actually, a really, I think, interesting show. This is going to be a good one. A little birdie dropped off some polling data in my inbox, and it's reliable. And we're going to talk about what it means. We've got some Trump numbers in New Mexico and some other numbers as well, which I think you're going to want to see. Then we're going to get a little lesson in redistricting from Teresa Fernandez.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay.
I mean, I just can't wait for the
So
brilliance.
we're going to listen to her explain why Texas is what they call gerrymandering, meaning cutting up congressional districts so that one side or another wins, right? And in this case, she's blaming Republicans. Okay. Now, my problem is never with someone who I might believe their opinions are wrong. My problem is with someone who thinks you're stupid and thinks you're too stupid to know what they're saying and that you're too dumb to realize how poorly they either understand the issue or how little regard this person has for our opinions and our intelligence. And what she does here is staggeringly offensive in the respect that she thinks you're dumb.
It's called gaslighting, guy.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time, and I feel like some of our leaders that we're going to talk about today specifically that's what they're rolling out right now.
Yeah.
They're rolling out some gaslighting pretty hot.
There's some hot gaslighting coming in.
Very hot.
And then Deb Haaland steps into what I think her campaign is going to be. So it's going to be distilled into one little soundbite from her that she reads off her phone teleprompter, but still, this is the route she's going to go. We'll explain why for her it's probably the right approach. The question is, will it work? And then we'll get into whether what she says is actually true or not. Spoiler alert, it's not. So when you run in an off-year election or in between presidential elections, right? A midterm, as we call it. Oftentimes, the party out of power has a huge advantage. We'll explain why that is still likely to be the case. We're going to get a bite from Dan Bonino, who's talking about what's going on at the FBI. And then the Albuquerque School Board. I don't know. I know you saw this.
Yeah.
A horrendous situation on the Albuquerque School Board.
Oh, I can't. I mean, we are obviously fans of Courtney Jackson, the vice president of the school board. We voted for her. We really wanted her to be in that position. And now this looks like it's ridiculous. It's not even just ridiculous. It's hurtful. It's really bad. I just can't. It's just such a poor representation of what the school board's supposed to be. So we'll get into that because it is unbelievable that actually more people are not talking about it.
Well, and it is not only that did her fellow school board member take a ridiculous cheap shot at her and her husband did this, right? But the way they reacted to it tells you everything about their character. Mm-hmm. And so we'll get into details on that. More flooding in Ruidoso. We've got some mail for you. A great PR move by a company that we want to recognize. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Sunday game day, we have a beauty. I mean, I'm telling you, okay. I got this thing. It was yesterday. It came in on the game cameras, and I was like, whoa, I got it.
Okay.
And so this thing's good looking.
Okay. It's at the end for those of you that don't care about game day. But there's a lot that do. Don't worry, honey. Don't worry.
Don't even mention that there are people who don't care about game day.
There's like two of us out there that don't.
Yeah, the fact that you're one of them is ridiculous. All right. Should we get to it?
Let's do it.
Okay,
let's dive in because, first of all, explain a little bit. Polling, obviously, is something that we don't get our hands on that often because why?
It's expensive. For a real poll that means something, where you've got to call people, and I've got, sorry, there, had my little phone went off.
Yes, I know. Maybe you should just mute that.
I will mute that from
You're
now on.
busy.
So what you end up seeing is with polling where you have to call people and get them on the phone, which now polling's sort of hybriding, right? It's some people on the phone, some people via text. They're doing a variety of things. But for the most part here, if you want a real poll that means something, it's about $40,000. It's expensive, okay? So therefore, you don't get a lot of regular polling. Now, sometimes you'll get garbage polling. Survey Monkey, take your survey. Like, we're not talking Survey Monkey. We're talking you've got people in a call center that are going down a list of questions and answers for people. It's evenly weighted. You figure out how it's all weighted out, by, representation, whether it be Republican, Democrat, Independent. You weight it out properly for the state and everything else. So it really does take a lot of money. That's why you don't get a ton of it.
Okay. So we have some, inside baseball numbers that are not really going to be revealed elsewhere.
Yeah, no one's going to talk about this publicly.
We happen to have some friends in right places.
Yeah,
Apparently.
yeah, and it's good stuff. And I think let's start with Trump's numbers.
Okay.
Because I think these are interesting. And Trump's favorability in New Mexico is 45%. His negatives, unfavorability is 50%. For Trump in New Mexico, that is a solid number.
Right, because he lost by, 6 points,
Yeah.
I think, in this last election.
Right, but a 45% favorable a year into your, not even, 8 months into your administration, 7 months into your administration, actually is pretty good, especially because of all the stuff that's been talked about with the big, beautiful bill. And everybody's saying, he's going to get thrown off of Medicaid and all this stuff, right? The cheap shots that don't turn out to be true. Overall, and before these plans can really take effect, I think a 45% approval rate for Trump in the state is solid.
Yeah, it's
a really good number.
That's pretty good. I mean, it's kind of why they always say that our state's more purple than blue.
Well, they don't. Well, it's become very blue, but
Well,
yeah,
it has. But things when you see numbers like this,
Yeah, no,
then
you're
you
right.
go
I think
back
you're
and
right.
think maybe we're a bit more purple than people think we are.
Yeah, I think that's
because
a really good
obviously,
point.
for his favorability to be that high, they had to have spoke to Democrats to find out that people like him as well. So.
Right, and independents, and yeah, his numbers with Republicans will obviously be very solid. But remember, Republicans are 32% of the electorate in New Mexico. He's at 45.
Right.
So those are some independent numbers in there, obviously, and some Democrats.
Right.
So yeah, so those numbers are actually pretty solid. MLG's numbers, her numbers aren't terrible for a second term governor, that people are kind of decided on her. She's always going to be underwater now. She's not going to not be underwater, but she's at roughly 44%. So a little below Trump, actually. And 49% unfavorable. I think a lot of that's the crime. I think she stemmed some of her. I think she'd be at 36% had she not come out and actually decided to talk about crime a couple years ago after the election. She I think realized, this is a huge issue after we wrapped it around her neck and she finally started to address it. I think that stemmed the flow of votes out of her column. So now she's at 44%. It's not a great number, but you know what? I don't think she would be horrified by that number.
Right.
It's fine.
I'm just going to add in here, though, that talking about crime and actually doing something about crime are two different things.
Correct. Correct.
I'm just
But
gonna
again,
say, you give her more props than I do.
No, I give her props because I don't give her a lot of props. Let's not overstate this. But but I do give her credit. The problem is the legislature. I've said it from the very beginning.
Right.
That there should be a much more of a concentration on this from the legislature. There isn't. And so she can do some, but she has a bad relationship with her own legislature. So that hurts too. And so really it's not a productive relationship, I think. And in general, in Santa Fe, they have done an incredible job at making this state incredibly dangerous.
Right.
And they deserve the blame for it. And while I agree she deserves some blame for it, obviously trying to fight this, I think, has helped some of her numbers. Again, they're not great numbers, but they're not horrible.
Okay, well, let's talk about the two that are really the most prominent in the Democratic side running for governor.
Yeah.
So let's look at Deb Haaland first.
Yeah.
Tell
Okay.
us a little bit about, are you surprised by her numbers? What do they look like to you?
I'm a little surprised. Her numbers are pretty low to me. So her favorable is 40%. She's above water, 40% to 36%. Okay. So that number to me is the number you get when you are a well-known partisan politician, basically, who doesn't have a lot of cross-party appeal, right? So that she's basically at 40%. That number's fine. Is she a juggernaut? No. And if you looked at that number and it was 55, you got a problem, right? Because then you're at all your Democratic voters and you got a bunch of independents and a couple Republicans, right? She's not there. She's not anywhere near there, right? Her own party is 42% of the electorate, okay?
Right.
So she's at 40% favorable. It's okay. She's fine. And so, again, it's not horrible, but I would say if I'm her and I see those numbers, I am making extra phone calls, getting extra money in the bank, and working extra hard. If I see
Okay,
those
well, let's
numbers.
talk about Showboat Sam Bregman.
Showboat Sam. All right.
Showboat Sam, the guy with the black hat, and
Yes.
the guy that wears whatever hat you need him to wear at the day that you need him to wear it.
Absolutely. Put the chaps on. I'm there for you.
Yeah, go to the Pride Parade.
Go to
where
the
you need
Pride
there.
Parade. I don't know
Whatever
what
you need him to be. Whatever you need him to
Hey,
be.
he
That's
is
what
whoever
he is.
you need him to be.
Yeah.
Very true. What these numbers show, 33% favorable, 12% unfavorable, is people don't know him. That's what those numbers tell you.
Okay.
Okay. So he's not particularly popular. Okay. 33% in his own party. And again, it's fine. I guarantee you the far lefties are going to have a problem with him. So these numbers, if you're Bregman, you're like, yeah, I'm not very well known. So he's going to have to become more well known here. But in some ways, he's maybe not as defined. But at the same time, he's trying to pull off this routine of something for everybody. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think in this day and age, in the world we live in, what is key for a politician or for someone who wants to be a leader is authenticity. And it is a kryptonite for him. He is anything but authentic. Mm-hmm. He just is. He's that classic old school politician where you leave the room going, he's my guy. And then he goes into a room with someone who has diametrically opposed feelings to you, and he's their guy. Yeah. And you're like, he can't be both guys.
No,
like
he is an actor. I feel like I still stand by this. What Sam Bregman needs to do is start his own show on Netflix. He needs to get a Netflix show. He needs to be like the sheriff of Lincoln County or whatever. Like he needs to be, he needs his own show because he's an actor. Put him on that horse that he's on that ad where he's riding out in town.
It's incredible.
Lord knows where that guy's riding on the horse.
Well, no, he's trying to chase down Dow. She's on so he's like, where's Dow at? At least Dow is legitimate staying on one side of the issue. Showboat goes both ways.
Oh, Showboat's all over the place. So yeah. Okay.
Nice.
So what we're seeing here though is like really at this point, out of the Democrats, really, we're seeing that Haaland really still does have the
I
upper
think
hand.
with these numbers, yeah, broadly. I mean, I do think that the mechanics of a race like this, guys who try to be centrists in a Democratic primary don't win. That's just all there is to it. It just doesn't happen. And so I think that's why Haaland is still very much the favorite in all of this. I don't think she's unbeatable. I think you look at these numbers and you say, she could collapse, but I don't think she'll collapse in the primary. Okay.
All right. So another one that, we've always said this, that oil and gas is still very much our industry here in New Mexico, and
doubt.
people are largely behind it.
Yep.
These current poll numbers are showing that with a 65% favorable here in the state of New Mexico.
Absolutely. And I think people have come to realize, and I think this happened over the past 7-8 years, where they've come to realize that oil and gas is the economic engine that drives New Mexico. You can't do anything without it. So to sit there and say, we're going to stop oil and gas, we're going to shut this thing down, or we're going to make all these rules, that don't actually clean anything up. We have the cleanest oil and gas, extraction in the world here. And it is something to be incredibly proud of here. And so what these numbers show you is people realize that.
Right. But here's the thing. Here's what's so tricky is you have Haaland, who is completely against the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
So she's going to be the one that's out there saying so far left on environmental issues that she's going to be trying to, crucify that industry. No, how does somebody get elected?
She's not going to do that. She's going to say, it's an important part of the economy. I want to make sure they're playing by the rules. I want to make sure that they keep things clean, and we need to make sure we invest in renewable. She's going to play she's going to moderate.
Play the middle, but she was the Department of Interior secretary where they shut down leasings for oil and gas.
Absolutely.
Land.
Again,
so
and
she has that against her.
I agree with you on that. In the right messenger can wrap that around her neck and hurt her with that.
Well, I will be the messenger of that then. Let me go ahead and tell everybody about that.
I will let you take over on that. But it is the right. That's part of a comprehensive campaign where she has some vulnerability there. Now, do I think people are going to vote on oil and gas as part of the election? No. I don't. I don't think that's how they're going to vote. However, it is important, and it does go to her sensibilities as a candidate. And you start pointing out that how ridiculous it is, right? And how dangerous it is for the state, and how if she got what she wanted, revenue to the state of New Mexico would collapse.
Right. And as somebody that was supposed to be a representative of New Mexico when she was the secretary of the Department of Interior, she worked against those. She worked against the state of New Mexico in essence because she was part of the leasing deal.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's Biden. She was
I understand
executing
it was under
on Biden's
Biden.
philosophy. No, all she's that's fine and all, but she's not supposed to represent New Mexico as head of the Interior. She's supposed to represent the United States.
Well, I
and all
understand
those
that, but she
interests.
still is representing. Okay, our state is what, the second largest of oil and gas
Yeah.
in the country,
Yep.
right? So if you're in that position, do you not go and explain that to Biden that, hey, this is a massive industry?
She couldn't explain her way out of a paper bag on this. I mean, we've seen that. Come on, she's not going to do that.
Okay,
That's
I'm just
not what they
saying.
do.
I just
mean,
think that's a big thorn in her side. You're saying that's not going to be an issue that voters are going to care about. Maybe
no,
not.
I didn't say they're not going to care about it. I'm saying people aren't going to decide their vote on oil and gas. However, it's part of a larger campaign. It is part of a larger campaign, which is going to be to paint her as somebody who is out of touch with what it takes to run the state of New Mexico and how important oil and gas is. The fact that you have all these surpluses that this current administration has been blessed with since the day they got in, it has been an unbelievably fortunate situation that the southeastern portion of the state has driven our economy and has put us in a position to be able to provide for people in the state of New Mexico in a huge way, which is an incredible blessing. It really is. So we'll see. But anyway, the overall takeaway, her numbers aren't particularly great. Showboat, nobody really knows who Showboat is yet. We'll see what happens with that. I think as they get to know him, the left side of the aisle in his own party's they're gonna eat him. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna be the one who's gonna take him
Sam,
out.
get an agent, get a show, get that show going on Netflix.
We'll see what happens. No,
get
it'll be
it
very
in.
solid. Very
Yeah,
solid.
turn
And I
your
just think
campaign
like
as
a black and white shot at tight of his face with the black cowboy hat on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, just
and like his
just
with his
call
horse, which is called the Governor, I think, or Governor or something.
Of course it is. Okay, so let's just call it Showboat. Like you just call it Showboat. You don't even call it Showboat Sam. You just call it Showboat.
Or Showboat Sheriff.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll just depend. I'm not sure we're going to make him the sheriff. We'll see what it depends on the county he's in, on what his job is. You know what I mean? Like,
it really is fluctuating.
He goes
depending
into
on-
Lincoln County, he's the sheriff.
Right, but
you know
he
what I
does
mean?
something
Like he's up
different.
in Santa Fe.
What's he doing there?
Well,
I mean, what's he doing there? Let's be honest.
that's a really good
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I don't really know.
Okay,
All right.
well, all right. So another one that stood out to me this week, Teresa Ledger Fernandez.
Yeah.
Making this viral video, right? Really trying to explain, and I hope that you can help me understand why she feels the need to talk about gerrymandering for votes in Texas.
Yeah.
Like, number one, why is she making this point? And does she recognize how bad it is in New Mexico of the gerrymandering and what her own party did here in this state?
We'll get to that. I think she must, and she thinks you're dumb. Like that's what it is. She thinks we're stupid. So we want to start with her statement here. It's about a minute and a half long.
Do we have to play the whole thing?
Yeah, I may cut it off.
Okay.
So
All right.
Ava,
It's painful.
let's start with this. We'll see how we do. And then we're going to just point out a couple of inconvenient facts for our esteemed Congresswoman for the 3rd Congressional District. So let's go ahead and listen to Teresa Ledger Fernandez learn us about gerrymandering.
Republicans are terrified they're going to lose the 2026 elections. Voters are especially angry at the big ugly bill which will strip health care from 11 million Americans, make children go hungry, all to give tax benefits to the billionaires. One way of solving that problem is to actually respond to what people like. Pay attention to the cost of living, bring down the cost of groceries and fuel and energy, but they're
Like
doing
Biden
the
did?
opposite.
Yeah.
So because they're worried
Okay, here we
about
go, here we go,
losing,
here we go, here we
instead
go.
of actually addressing the needs of their voters, they're going to do something called gerrymandering, redistricting so that only Republicans can win. Now let me explain that a little bit. Trump has said, hey, Texas, I want 5 more congressional seats. Now how does a Republican governor and state legislature actually give Trump 5 more Republican seats? They do that by saying we are going to draw these district lines for Congress in a way that favors Republicans and basically silences Democrats and independents. And they've already done it. Listen, in Texas right now, this is an interesting figure.
Yeah, here we go.
Texas
Oh, I can't
Republicans make up 37% of the voters. Registered Republicans make up 37% of voters in Texas. But right now, they hold 65% of the congressional districts. They've done this through gerrymandering. Now, if Trump gets what he wants, this 37% of Republicans in Texas will be able to have 79% of the congressional district. This is not fair. That's why voters everywhere are angry about the idea that they are rigging the system. They are rigging the elections. They are taking away voters' right to choose their leaders Leaders should not be able to choose their voters. Voters
Okay, I know. Okay,
should
all right,
choose.
all right, all right.
I mean, I can hardly watch it. Honestly, I'm dying. I'm just dying.
So her point is she goes and grabs Texas and says, well, Texas has certain amount of Republican voters and they have a higher percentage of Republicans representing those seats, right? And so it's a simple graph right here. Okay, and so basically in Texas, what you get is 64% or so Republican representation. Okay, interesting. Well, I wonder how New Mexico stacks up. Well, let's take a look. Let's see. New Mexico Democrats make up 42.3% of the voters in the state. Republicans make up 32.2, 10% spread. By the way, that's going down significantly. When we ran, it was a 14-point spread. It's now 10. So it's getting closer in the state of New Mexico, by the way.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's weird. The congressional representation is 100-0. Oh, so wait a minute. So you're telling me Democrats make up 42% of the voters and they get 100% of our congressional representation. 100%. The ratio, far worse than Texas, right here in New Mexico.
Right. And why is that, Mark?
Well, here's why, Christy. Let's go back to 2020. Okay, this is what our congressional map looked like. Okay, let me just explain this. The blue area is Albuquerque. That's called Congressional District 1. That's all the Albuquerque metro area, basically, and then out into Torrance County. Okay, so what you're trying to do in congressional districts is sort of group people together that have similar sorts of issues and similar sorts of interests, right? That makes sense. So across the northern part of the state, that was Congressional District 3. Then that's where Teresa Fernandez was originally elected. Down south, you can see that's Congressional District 2. Okay, so this was basically what we had. And for the most part, during the prior 10 years, when we had this particular map, and really 20 years, when we had this particular map, you had a back and forth between a Republican and a Democrat in Albuquerque, but that's gone Democrat now. Okay. So, and then down in Congressional District 2, the southern half of the state, that was pretty much Republican. You'd occasionally get a Democratic winner. Harry Teague won it once. And we also had Torres Small win it once. Okay. So it happens here and there, but for the most part, it was Republican. And then to the north was always Democrat. It was Bill Richardson. It was Tom Udall. It was Teresa Fernandez. It was Ben Ray Lujan, right? So the north was always Democrat. Okay. Well, in 2021, they redistricted. Okay. Let's take a look at the map now. Here it is, Teresa. Okay. So now talking about what she said about gerrymandering, okay, or gerrymandering, either one, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. There's Jerry Jones, who's owner of the Cowboys. People call him Jerry. So I get it. I understand what she's talking about, doing the Texas twang. I get it. But all right, so here's what happened now. Albuquerque's been split. Okay, so the whole idea here was the Democrats said, we are going to take CD2 away from Republicans.
Right.
That's what they did. So if you look, one area on this map has 3 different colors in it. One quadrant of the state has 3 different colors in it. What quadrant is that?
The southern part.
The southeastern part of the state. Why would they do that? They want to carve up Republican votes and put them in 3 different districts, not in one.
Right.
Right? So now Albuquerque, CD1, not only includes Albuquerque, but it includes Ruidoso, which of course is very much like Albuquerque. I mean, really
they're
close.
really tight. Yeah.
Really close. Why did they do that? Because they knew Albuquerque's votes could overwhelm Ruidoso's votes. So Ruidoso, very Republican. East Central New Mexico, very Republican. So they just extended it out there and watered down the Republican votes in the Southeast. Then they take District 2, right? The one that they wanted to cheat with, okay? So they said, oh, let's pull in the South Valley of Albuquerque to CD2. Why would you do that? Because the South Valley of Albuquerque is Democrat, right? And you take that away. And then you start to slide over and you pull out of that district places like the northern portion of Lee County, Roswell, up through the east side of the state. You pull it all out. So therefore, they went and made sure that that district became a lot more blue. And then Teresa's district, right? She used to be just the northern half of the state. Now they dip her down into the southeast because they knew they had enough votes. So they could pull a few Democrats out of her district and put it into District 2.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So the very thing she talks about for Texas, and not knowing what she's talking about, she knows this happened in New Mexico.
Right.
And by the way, This map you're seeing here in the U.S. congressional seats, that's one thing. It's even worse on the state level, okay? Our House and Senate seats are gerrymandered to the hilt so that Democrats never lose power. So she is advocating for the very thing she knows she's done. Why? Because she thinks you're stupid.
Yeah, she thinks you don't have any idea. And I just remember very specifically, Yvette Herald had District 2. She was CD2, right? They do this gerrymandering, this whole reworking of the map, and she loses, right? She loses the seat.
Yep.
And so I'm just thinking, all right, Teresa, do you think that that was in 2021, the election was in 2022. Do you think that we're that dumb that we have forgotten that? Like, that's really, I can't believe that she's sitting there lecturing on Texas,
right,
and the manipulation of voters over there, when this is like New Mexico is like the exact example of how to do this. Yep. Like this is exactly what the Democrats did in our state. Yep. So I just think she must think that we're all dumb and don't know that. I guess
she does. She does. And she sits there and goes through her little routine and then says, she goes and says, elected officials shouldn't be able to choose their voters. That's exactly what she's done. That's exactly what they've done. And they've tried to push people out. So my problem with people like her is that, look, I get that you've taken advantage of gerrymandering. Yes, there is gerrymandering in Texas. There is gerrymandering in Illinois. There's gerrymandering across the country. It does happen. But to have the gall to sit up there and butcher your way through a 2-minute statement on something that you yourself are doing is the height of absolute gaslighting. And it just is terrible. And this is what I can't stand. We don't have to agree on the issues, but don't be a dirtball who goes and says things that are just flat out something that you're doing. We make the point all the time. They always say the opposite side is what they themselves are doing all the time. And this is what she's doing.
Yeah, and
it's embarrassing when you see her and you see our representation. Vasquez is an embarrassment, and so is Melanie Stansberry. When you look back at the representation we used to have, both Republican and Democrat, in the state of New Mexico, we had people of consequence. We did. We no longer do. We are a joke. We are a joke. And things like this are a joke. Grow up and realize what your responsibility is and fight for the people who elected you. Stop gaslighting everybody. Stop going out there and saying, well, look what they're doing. Look what they're doing, when you know yourself.
Like you look up the example in a dictionary of gerrymandering, it'll be like New Mexico. Follow what New Mexico did verbatim, and you'll win every single seat. 100% representation. We'll go to one side of the aisle.
Yeah.
So okay, and here's the question is, we can't get out of this, right? We can't change these districts again until the next census,
2030,
which is in 2030.
You bet.
Right. So we're stuck with this until 2030.
I'll tell you, it would be very helpful to have a governor that understood what was going on in 2030. To be able, because by 2031 is when you'll adopt the map, and you need a governor who's going to stand up and say, no more of this garbage. It's very simple. It's very simple. You do the Albuquerque metro area, you do the north, you do the south.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And now, much more detail gets into the state house races and things like that. That's different. That's much more of a deep dive into the crevices of different places and roads cutting here and valleys cutting there and how it all works. But I will say it's very simple. We had fairly fair districts before this, and now gone.
They're all gone.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, speaking of just more gaslighting and more just, hey, let me come up with something to say that's bad about Trump this week and make a viral video. We got our own gubernatorial candidate, Deb Haaland.
Yeah.
She's coming out harsh against Trump, and she's fighting for our education rights of our kids, just so you know. So be warned that nobody's going to get through her, right? Nobody.
Okay, well, let's listen to what she has to say, then we'll react.
Hey everyone, I'm not sure if everyone saw the news, but President Trump is holding back $44 million from New Mexico schools. That means that schools will be forced to make tough choices, and our kindergartners, grade school kids, and high schoolers will bear the burden. It means fewer teachers because of hiring freezes, canceled programs, and boys and girls clubs across the country could close more than 900 centers. And I know kids in Albuquerque, Pewaukee, Farmington, and rural communities across the state go to boys and girls clubs after school while their parents are at work. All of this while giving the wealthiest people huge tax breaks. Our congressional delegation and Attorney General are already on the case. They've called out President Trump, and they've demanded the release of this funding. But I want to call this what it is. Trump is stealing money from our kids, just 2 weeks before they head back to school after the summer. As governor, I'll work.
Okay, so obviously she has. Okay, we give her credit for one thing here. Okay, so
Well, wait, hold on. Why don't you talk about whether this is actually true or not,
okay, all right,
and then we'll get to her approach.
okay, all right, and hopefully you guys could hear. Okay, we had some audio problems with that, but
Well,
basically,
no, it's just lower. It's just when she released it, it was lower. She released it pretty low
low
level. So yeah,
volume.
we tried to get it as much as we could.
Okay,
we
but-
juiced it up.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear a little bit of that. But okay, so she's basically saying we're going to fight back against all these education cuts and that all this money that Trump is grabbing back from our kids, right? Well, here's what turns out to be a hard pass for this particular video is basically the education department released $5 billion of all that funding, right? So they basically just have released all that fund. There's no holding back on these funds anymore, Deb Haaland. So some of the details here, it says the Department of Education announced Friday the release of more than $5 billion of funding to schools after an almost month-long pause. At the beginning of July, the Trump administration paused the typical release of almost $7 billion in funding to schools that went towards after-school and summer activities, classes for English learners and adults, and teacher preparation programs, among other things. And then it says last week, the administration released more than $1 billion for after-school and summer programs, but declined to say when the rest would be released. Going on here a little bit more, it says basically the Republicans were very quick to celebrate the release many had fought for. West Virginia Republican Senator Shelley Moore, Capito, and Jim Justice quickly reacted to the news. Capito had led an effort among Senate Republicans earlier this month to push for the funding of the release. Exciting news to announce. All frozen education funding for the upcoming school year have been released. And it goes on to talk about more things there. But basically, the White House argued the funds were paused because some money was going to radical left-wing agenda. They wanted to slow down that process and make sure that the funding was actually going towards education or these programs in a good way. And so the final quote in here, which I wanted to read, was that we are pleased public schools will receive the funding as appropriated by Congress for the 25-26 school year on the heels of our survey released Tuesday, detailing how disruptive withholding these funds would be for our nation's students. We thank our members and allies on the Hill. So basically the Hill did this survey and they wanted to
Yeah, that was the
talk a little bit about that.
superintendent of schools saying that. though.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
So anyway, so basically the funding has not been held back longer. I mean, it was a pause, it says, in that funding starting in the early July, and it's been released.
Right.
So now you go ahead and talk about why Haaland, she's shifting gears with her
Right.
tactics and how you think this is probably the best approach for her.
It is. This is the unpopular. This will be my unpopular opinion of the day. But that is that Deb Haaland, this is where she's going to live in this campaign. She's not running against a Republican in the state of New Mexico. She's running against Trump. And she's going to demonize anything he does. It doesn't matter if it's true or not what she says. She doesn't care. She can't do two things. She can't mention her Democratic opponent. Okay, she can't mention Bregman, and then she really doesn't want to talk about her Republican opponent either. I mean, she'll tie them to Trump, and whenever that person gets nominated, whatever. But she'll do that. But she is going to run purely against Trump. This is her path to victory. This is what she's going to do. Again, she'll demagogue everything and make sure that it doesn't matter if it's true. It just doesn't matter. She will regularly say things that aren't true. That doesn't matter. Her whole thing is run against Trump, run him down, and then have her be the person who's going to come to the rescue here. Because remember, she's running after 8 years of a Democrat where you've had crime skyrocket, homelessness skyrocket, our violence in the state. We're the number one most violent state in the country, worst education system in the country. We are now the second worst state in the country for violence against police officers. That's where we are as a state. You can't run on that. You can't run on that record. That record's horrendous, right? So you have to run against Trump. And so that's what she's going to have to do. So we'll see if she's successful in it. But I will tell you, this is where if you're her political advisors, this is where they're going to tell her to be.
Well, because they're going to keep telling her, let's just make this all about Trump.
No question.
We don't want to deal with the actual issues in your state, because if we can avoid those, then you don't have to talk about how the failings that your party has had in the state.
And plus she doesn't have answers for it, right? She doesn't have answers for anything.
Well, she could. It's not like solutions aren't unknowable.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question.
That's what's so maddening
But
about
that's
this.
not her wheelhouse. Her wheelhouse is going to be stay away from specifics and just hit Trump. So I'm just telling you, this was more effective than she goes to Taos and has a meal in Taos and talks about how she likes eating food
Her
in
last
house.
viral video that we showed
don't
on
do
the
that.
show.
Just like if you're her, you're going this route. Now, again, there are a lot of ways in which she can be exposed for that, but this is what she's going to do. This is where she's kind of in her wheelhouse.
Perhaps she should wait longer than 2 weeks to see what the government's actually going to do with certain
She
things
doesn't care.
before she makes a
She
video.
doesn't care. No.
'Cause now
She
she looks
doesn't
like an idiot.
No. She doesn't look like an idiot. Not to her, not to her voters. No way. She wants to make as much of this as she can say. She's going to say it. Yeah, absolutely. Like she doesn't care that it doesn't turn out to be true. It doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. Hello. It doesn't matter if what she says is true or not. Like that's one lesson you learn.
Well,
in
and I
this.
think that's
It's
what's
too
so
bad.
frustrating is I really hope that voters are paying more attention
And
to
then
what's
may
true.
well. They may well. Look, they may well eventually look at her and say, she doesn't really seem to get it, right? I mean, they may well do that. But right now, we now live in a post-truth political world where you can say whatever you want if you're her. Now, could I do that? No, of course not. I would be attacked the second I went out and said something that wasn't true. I'd get attacked by the media in a second if we ever did it. If we ever ran an ad that wasn't true. Like Michelle had to pull an ad down that she had on me that just wasn't true. And so if we ever did that, they'd freak out. Right. They'd melt down and be like, oh my gosh, so it goes one way. There's no question about that. So she can say whatever she wants, whenever she wants.
And the media is not going to follow up on this.
No,
Yeah,
we're not going to
ridiculous.
start doing that.
Anyway.
Okay. All right. So part of the reason, though, that this is tricky going forward here in the midterm election is because of voter, especially, voter anger on one side or another. Like it's just how it works. And so if you look here, the latest numbers are out on which voters are more fired up to vote in this election. We go back to October 2022. Republicans in the Biden midterm, Republicans were more fired up to vote than Democrats. And then in July of 2025, Democrats are much more fired up than are Republicans. I want to show you this graph because it's interesting. And I think more interesting than 2022 is 2024. So if you look at the red line, that's Republicans, how fired up they are to vote, right? And those numbers in 2024, which is the presidential, was up around 75%, right? I mean, much higher than Democrats, right? And then now look what's happened to Republicans. It starts to go down. Democratic enthusiasm goes way up. This is just one of the many reasons. And we've talked about a bunch of them. One is that it's much easier to attack a sitting president and just say he's doing it terribly and just say he's cutting to everybody and he's giving tax breaks to billionaires, even though the tax breaks are the most evenly distributed in the history of the country. And in fact, 90% of Americans got a tax break, with most significant tax breaks going to lower income and middle income families. Like that's a lie to say that the Trump tax cuts are for the rich. It's just not true. It's an absolute lie. However, doesn't matter, of course. But as you attack these things, it's much easier to attack. And then when your voters are more fired up, this makes it a tough climb if you're a Republican running in one of these midterm races. I still think there are going to be some really close races for a variety of reasons that we've talked about, that Democrats don't have a plan. What do they stand for? What does it mean?
They all stand for just Trump bad, Trump bad,
Right.
Trump
And
bad.
so, but anyway, it shows you how high the hill can be to climb.
Okay, so they the Democratic Party this week kind of stepped in it a little bit. They put out a tweet basically saying U.S. grocery prices reached record highs in 2025.
Right, but
prices are higher today than they were in July of 24, all in major categories listed below.
But then look at the actual graph. If it go down to October of 2021 and then to October of 2022, that's Biden administration. They got roasted on this because look at the lines skyrocket between 2021 and 2022. And so they had to literally pull the tweet down because they got roasted so badly that everything started to calm back down again price-wise. But under their administration, that's when it exploded. It's just one of those things where you just go, what are you doing? Like when you look at these numbers, you're like, what are you putting out? Like, what is this? So
they just want to blame. They want to keep the blame going. So, okay. So Dan Bongino has come under a lot of, he's the talk of the town in a lot of things, especially with the Epstein case. Now this Russiagate issue that's been coming out and bubbling under and kind of, exploding under Tulsi Gabbard's press conferences. And it's interesting that he's now taking this. He's like, I'm going to put out my own statement because we kind of haven't heard a ton from him specifically.
Right.
And he's a pretty fiery guy. So I thought this was an interesting tweet that he put out this week. It says, during my tenure here as the deputy director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us, but what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We are going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the laws. We're going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I cannot predict where it will land, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at the truth. Not, quote, my truth or, quote, your truth, but the truth. God bless America and all those who defend her. Respectfully, Dan. Pretty, I think because he's kind of come under like, where have you been on some of these issues? You were super fiery about all this for years leading up to you taking this new position. Where does you stand? Obviously, he's saying, listen, you guys have to trust the process. We're handling it. We're looking into this, and we're going to come up with some results. I thought that was a pretty effective statement, actually.
I think it is, and it's going to get to the Epstein stuff. It's going to get to a lot of stuff. So we don't have any Epstein stuff today or any Russiagate stuff. But the reason we kind of put this in its stead to be able to say there's stuff going on. The question is, how's it going to play out? And I agree, it's a very effective statement. We'll see what ends up happening with it and see how it all plays out. But I have no doubt that what he's seeing right now is probably shocking him, and it's important that we get an FBI and an intelligence community that serves the people of this country and stop serving those in power to weaponize intelligence. And it's happened, and we've watched it decay. And I will make the argument once again that when you have a media structure who only cares about holding one side to account, the other side can run crazy. And believe me, if it could go the other way too. So we have to absolutely get some answers here. And we need a country that's accountable. And we don't have leaders that are accountable right now. We just don't.
So some crazy times at an Albuquerque Public School Board meeting on July 16th.
Okay.
Something we did not necessarily think that was fireworks like this would be happening. But basically there was a conversation with the board about another member of the board being out on maternity leave and missing some meetings. And things got really kind of spicy between Heather Benavides and Vice President Courtney Jackson, who we know personally, and we're big fans of hers. But basically what happened is some questions and answers start getting thrown about in this meeting, and then things go a little awry. So we're going to show you a little video first, and then we'll get your take on this. Because I think this goes so far south so quickly that it's a shame, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a story that Jessica Garate did for KRQE, and then we'll talk about it after.
Meeting for Wednesday, July 16th, 2025.
During last week's APS school board meeting, members followed along on their laptops as they gave results of a self-evaluation.
I scored us a 0. And it was based on poor attendance.
Board member Heather Benavides called out the board on attendance, which then sparked a debate about one member who has missed many meetings while on maternity leave.
But during that period, this board member did attend one meeting. So was she on leave or not?
Benavides' husband was following the meeting and sent a text to his wife, which popped up in large print on her laptop. Someone took this photo that has been circulating. KRQE News 13 obtained the picture. Her husband writes a vulgar message about board member Courtney Jackson. It says Courtney is a C word, which Benavides likes and writes back, a stupid one at that. He goes on to say there is no maternity leave, and Benavides writes, what a crock of the S word. Jackson sent a statement saying in part she was made aware of the comment and reached out to Benavides to address what was clearly a hurtful and inappropriate personal attack. Jackson writes, what was on display that night was disappointing and lacked the integrity we each committed to when we took this role. No one said we always have to agree, but we do owe one another respect. She goes on to say, we are role models for the district. Disparaging comments only bring down the important work we're here to do. And Jackson says though they spoke, Benavides did not apologize, which is unfortunate. Benavides also sent a statement saying in part, During the meeting, an unfortunate breach of my privacy occurred when someone took a photo of my computer screen, capturing a private conversation without my knowledge or consent. She also writes, I am committed to moving forward and will not allow distractions or actions that seek to undermine my integrity or dedication to detract from the important work.
Okay. First of all, a couple things. Her husband, Miss Benavides' husband, is Joshua Sanchez. He is the Chief Bernalillo County Judge. Okay? Just a few things on this that are infuriating to me. You know, look, people say things in private text that can be really coarse and horrendous. That's a horrendous thing to say. Okay? I make no excuses for that. For them. I think it's terrible. But what I find most offensive from them, both of them, by the way, because I don't think he said a word, is the fact that Benavides goes out and then turns herself into the victim. She immediately, instead of saying, you know what, I screwed up and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I took away from the good work we're doing. It will not happen again. And she calls Courtney and says, Courtney, I blew it. I'm really sorry. Show some sense of humility to be able to say you made a mistake. Instead, she just immediately turns it and shows exactly who she is, which is someone of horrendous character who would issue a statement like that. You do what you did. You may not have liked having your privacy violated, but you are not being targeted for any work that you're doing. You and your husband went out there and took a cheap shot. And then when you got caught, you doubled down and decided you were going to be a jerk about it. And your husband should be embarrassed for what he did. Now, Joshua Sanchez is familiar to the political world. His dad was a senator down in Valencia County.
Michael Sanchez, one of the biggest opponents to strong laws to keep people safe in the state of New Mexico. Breonna's law, voted against it, stood in the way of it. He actually stood in the way of trying to hold pedophiles accountable. This guy is bad news. And as Valencia County moved to the right, he ended up losing his Senate seat. Thankfully, for the people of the state of New Mexico, he no longer gets to torture us in the legislature by trying to make our laws completely and totally so lax that everybody's in danger. He's been horrible on that. And so his son coming in and using that kind of language with his wife acting the way they did shows exactly who they are. And it's a bummer. Well, they're acting like they're so smart. Like they're the smartest people in the room.
Oh, I know.
By the
They're
way.
so smart.
And heaven forbid if
brilliant.
Courtney actually asked a question that other people think, I mean, give me a break. Like if she asked a question, I don't know the whole gist of this whole thing, but I know that what this response by this judge should be horrified. He should have made a statement immediately apologizing.
Yes, exactly.
Because you should never use that language ever. I don't know if there's a worse word that you could call a woman, by the way.
Right. I agree.
And so
but they care about women.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
you all
honestly,
care about women.
Benavides going in there saying, you don't get any sort of leave. Oh, okay, champion of women.
Yeah.
So she gets some leave. Big deal. And it just shows you what kind of phonies they really are. They don't care about leave. They don't care about women. They don't care about having kids and saying, wait a minute, let's adjust the schedule so we can have someone who's maybe having a child. They can still have a role in this. Maybe we do that. No. No, absolutely not. This is all BS to be able to go and take time off to have a kid. Yeah. Give me a break.
And I'm sorry, I have to say this because I know Courtney, and Courtney is a very hard worker, and she is a widower, and she has two daughters she's raising on her own. She's had a hell of a year.
Right.
And honestly, for these people to call her that, for Heather and her husband, this chief judge, Joseph, or whatever his name is, Joshua, to say this about another woman who has gone through hell and back is, I just think it's
well, it just shows exactly who they are.
It
just shows exactly what they are. But again, look at how Courtney handled it. Yeah. With complete and total grace and exactly how you want a leader to handle something. But make no mistake, when leaders show you who they are, believe them.
Right.
And they should be embarrassed. And it'd be one thing if they had said, shoot, we made a mistake. We screwed this up and we are really sorry. That would tell you something about their character. But the fact that they didn't, the fact that Benavides tries to turn herself into the victim,
And they've been
then Chief Judge decides, I'm not going to say a word. Okay, champ, you guys are what you are. And I just, it's disgusting.
And
the leadership, the lack of leadership is embarrassing. They're embarrassing.
And they've been in public service for years. So that's why this is.
No, they're not in public service.
No.
They're in personal service. And they're in the power game. That's what they're in. They're not in public service. I would like to think that. Because if you looked at Joshua Sanchez's career, you could say, you know what? The judge, he's, gone through the process. That is public service. I would agree. No, it's not. Not when you start seeing this. Then you realize it's not about public service. But,
No, he thinks he's the smartest guy.
Yeah.
I remember, and I'll let you tell what you want to tell of this story. We did a lot of 4th of July parades during your race,
Right.
Governor. And we did the Valencia County 4th of July. And you had your own personal experience with the Sanchez family.
Oh, my gosh, I did,
So
yeah.
I want you to tell what you feel comfortable telling on this.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it was the July 4th parade down in Valencia County, which it was the 2022 campaign for governor. Now, Valencia County has swung red. It is one of the best. Like when you go to do any events and you do them in Valencia County, they're the best.
Right.
Whether it be Los Lunas or Belen, they are just, this is a county where people have just realized, wait a minute, we were heading in the wrong direction, put our foot in the ground, do something different. So we go on the 4th of July parade for Valencia County. It's great. You go through Main Street, you do the whole deal. It was so much fun. Well, I'm with Greg Baca, who ended up beating Michael Sanchez, thankfully, for the Senate seat. Greg and I are going down the road, and Greg points at a house off to the left. He goes, you should go say hey to them. It was a really cool, nice little house. Like, it was kind of like a craftsman style, really beautiful little home. And there are all these people lined up on the deck cheering. And I'm like, oh, of course. I go running up there. All of the sudden, the expression on every one of their faces were like they'd seen a ghost. As I'm shaking all their hands, they put their hands out, and you could tell they couldn't believe I was shaking their hands. And I look in the back, and it's Michael Sanchez's house with all his family. And I'm like shaking all their hands like I'm their best friend. And they're looking at me like, if we could kill this guy right now, we would. But they had to kind of be like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to. So then I leave. I go back to Bach. I'm like, what was that? He goes, oh, yeah, you're right. It was Michael Sanchez's place.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks a lot. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've had a couple of moments. But yeah, it was interesting. I just think this whole thing, whatever.
Yeah, and Courtney, you're doing a great job on the board.
Absolutely.
And it's a
God bless
thankless
her.
job a lot of times, and we appreciate the folks that are showing up to be on the APS board. The school boards matter. They're very important work that people are doing, so thanks for all the time that you're putting into that.
Yep.
So let's shift gears a little bit, talking again about Ruidoso.
Flooding again last week, Thursday. This is what it looked like. If you can pray for the people there, offer any help possible. This is just unbelievable. More flooding down the Rio Ruidoso, and you could see a building just kind of sliding right on down. It looks like it is some sort of trailer that came off its foundation and got swept down. Again, we've got a shot again at more of this sort of thing later on this coming week. So be thinking about them, be offering prayers. There's a lot of places you can go to offer help. They're just trying so hard to keep their feet underneath them. It is not easy.
To rebuild there, which is really tough for them. Okay, so let's get to a little bit of our viewer mail. This first one came in a little spicy, and unfortunately, I cut off the name. I'm so sorry. Frank Valdez. Okay, thank you, Eva. Appreciate it. Okay, so this one came in. It says, why doesn't Mark address the issue of pedophiles in the Epstein list? Is he not disturbed that they're being protected? Has party loyalty and Trump taken precedence over children, over God, over the law? It's heartbreaking to see what the Republican Party has become. No, I take that back. This isn't the Republican Party. This is a MAGA fraction. There's still true Republicans out there. So I wanted to let you, if you wanted to say something about this comment.
No, I think it's fine to release it. I just don't, it isn't my number one priority, isn't Jeffrey Epstein's list. My number one priority is providing a structure where people can flourish in this country, and there's a million other priorities. But I get it. I totally get it. Great, bring it out. I don't care. What do I care if there is no Epstein list, but if there's more Epstein information, sure, go for it. I don't care. Absolutely. And actually, if there are people that need to be arrested, then arrest them. I mean, we've had this information. You act like it's new. Like, here comes all this new information that's just come into the DOJ. What are you talking about? The guy died in 2019. Like, this is 6 years ago. What do you think's there? And if you want to release it all, that's great. Go for it. I don't care at all. So this has nothing to do with MAGA or anything else. MAGA are the ones who want it out, by the way. So don't go blaming MAGA. And, because if you really talk about this, people on the MAGA side are like, yeah, we're not going to let this go.
Right.
Which is fine. I'm just saying, to me, I just have other priorities that I think are important, but I totally get it, and I fully support it. Get it out there. Whatever you want to do, arrest whoever you want. That's good with me. And I think if the Bonino stuff folds into this and we start getting some real answers, great. And wherever it leads, go for it, because it's going to lead to some Republicans too.
Right,
You know?
absolutely. I think that's for sure going to happen.
Which is
okay,
fine.
Kimberly says, Obama, Hillary, and the intelligence community colluded to take out a duly elected president. That's called sedition. It's worse than just getting Biden elected. It caused so much chaos that President Trump was hamstrung 24/7 from getting anything done those first 2 years or even beyond. The Republicans lost Congress in the 2018 midterms. It's really galling that Obama made that statement yesterday, saying it's irrefutable, that Russia did help elect Trump because after 2 years of a $40 million Mueller investigation, they found no evidence of Russian interference. And yet, still to this day, every Democrat still thinks it's true. And Obama repeated that again in his current statement. It's unbelievable. So that was in response to our last episode.
Yep.
Okay, Raccoon Little Bear. He's having, I don't know if this is a woman or a guy, but they're having a little issue with us using Harry Inton's polling numbers that he does on CNN. I've never seen him more acted. I told you this when we show his videos. He can make a poll or seem very exciting with the way he does it with his graphics. But hold on, let me read the comment and then you can address it.
Yeah.
She said, they say there are 3 types of lies: damn lies, and statistics, from Mark Twain. Going to CNN for stats is like Stephen Colbert for political advice. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that.
Look, I think you have to remember the numbers we pick off of CNN when we do it. Usually, I want to make sure that they're accurate. We look at who does the polling and everything else. Most of those numbers I think are really interesting, and when they make sense, we use them. Just because they may say Trump may not be as strong here or there or whatever, I don't not show those. I think that what we usually do is we take the numbers and we back them up with other numbers and say, are you looking at certain numbers that are trending in other areas? And so Harry Inton does a really good job. He doesn't get particularly political. And so, yes, he's on CNN, so there's that. I get it. But at the same time, I'm not just going to go grab Fox News stuff every time or whatever. And a lot of the numbers he uses, they use on other networks too. So I just think he ends up being a decent, relatively honest broker. He doesn't always say what I want to hear. There's no question. But at the same time, I think it's important that we bring you numbers as they are. Going into 2026, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's just the way it is in the midterm of a presidential administration. It just, so to think that it's not, and to think it's going to be some rolling, here come the Republicans in the 2026 midterms, it's not. It's not. It's going to be hard. So that's all. So I just want to tell you the truth. That's all.
Okay. So as I ran a PR firm for almost 25 years, and I have to say, this PR move done this week by the group Astronomer, right? Which, let's back up. This Astronomer was the group. The CEO and the head of HR were the ones that were caught at a Coldplay canoodling on the Jumbotron.
Right.
They both since have left and have resigned from the company.
Yes.
But obviously, how many of us actually had heard of Astronomer before this all went down, right?
Right.
So in the genius, this is PR genius that they've done this, I think. Now, when you go to Astronomer, you're going to see no other than Gwyneth Paltrow, who is the former wife of Chris Martin from Coldplay, making a very important announcement about the company, and we wanted to play it for you.
Thank you for your interest in Astronomer. Hi, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. I've been hired on a very temporary basis to speak on behalf of the 300-plus employees at Astronomer. Astronomer has gotten a lot of questions over the last few days, and they wanted me to answer the most common ones. Yes, Astronomer is the best place to run Apache Airflow, unifying the experience of running data, ML, and AI pipelines at scale. We've been thrilled so many people have a newfound interest in data workflow automation. As for the other questions we've received, yes, there is still room available at our Beyond Analytics event in September. We will now be returning to what we do best, delivering game-changing results for our customers. Thank you for your interest in Astronomer.
And so if you're only listening to our show and you can't see the video of that, it may not be as funny to you, but there's pop-ups that are coming on that are saying like
The questions.
The questions that they're showing on the screen are like, what the actual F is happening? And then like, how's your social media team doing? And so her answers are all about the company and not about what people are actually dying to know. I thought it was genius. I think it's funny. I think that the tie-in between Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, I have no idea what they paid her to do this, but it couldn't have been cheap to get her on
my gosh,
in
no.
like a moment's notice. So I actually think it could have been even funnier if it was Chris Martin doing it. But I still think that
I don't
that
think
could
he
have
would
been.
have done it.
Oh, I don't think he would have done it either.
Yeah.
But I think it
No,
was.
I think it was better with her.
You
Yeah,
do?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
like they're
yeah.
tag teaming.
Yeah, like almost like she's rebutting him. Like he exposed him, and she's like, "Yeah, calm down here. Like, here's what we really do." I think it was really good. I just
Yeah,
brilliant.
it was genius. It was a good.
And
Little
that's
PR
where you
move.
lean into these things and be super smart about the way you respond to them,
And the fact that they pulled
not
this
being
off
defensive.
so fast.
Yeah.
So fast because we
Yeah.
talked about this Coldplay a week ago.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, but think of the mood of what that was and what makes it so valuable, which is it wasn't defensive.
right,
It was leaning into it, appreciating the humor, and then the pivot.
right.
Right, that's what's so good. It's a lesson you can learn in politics too, which is arguing back. You get all angry, and a lot. Sometimes it's like, and then you kind of turn it. And the best people can feel those things, and the best companies can feel those things. Absorb them and then pivot.
Yeah, which was
really
what
good.
I mean. We did it on a very, very minor scale compared to that with mean tweets, but it was like trying to find
Yeah, you
humor,
try to have a little fun with it. Yeah.
have a little fun with the. I still miss mean tweets. I mean, we get plenty of them. We should still have Ella join us for mean
I know.
tweets. I mean,
No, we should.
We could
All right.
just turn in the comments from the show now. Okay, you've been dying to show Sunday Game Day
This
video.
is good. Yeah, no. So yesterday,
Game Day.
all of a sudden, I'm on my phone. I get an alert from my camera. This one's in the middle of the woods, up at about 11,000 feet in Angel Fire, and this big guy shows up. Look at this.
And explain for our people who are listening what
This
you're actually
is
seeing.
an elk with a massive rack. I mean, this is a bull elk that is beautiful.
Yeah, he's healthy too. Holy
he is.
cow.
He looks
He's been eating
great
all year long.
Oh, I
so,
mean,
yeah.
he's just like, the fur, the whole situation.
shiny
on him.
coat, yeah.
Number 2, his clip number 2, Ave. Yeah. And so then he's just eating here. So I kind of, he's just looking around, but just a gorgeous, still got the fur on there too, on the horns.
The velvet.
Yeah. He's still got the velvet on there, which he looks great. And then in the last clip, he just kind of disappears into the woods and he's like, I'm out of here. How they walk when you have, the elk horns like that are just amazing through the woods, but he's a big dude.
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
Well,
So that was my shot. I was pretty excited about him.
congratulations, sir.
Hey, thank you. I feel great.
Congratulations.
I feel great.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thanks you guys for joining us for today's show. We will be back. But before you leave, please make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us, we really would appreciate you just jumping over to the YouTube channel and just hit the subscribe button. We have had a couple of comments about some of our content not coming up as regularly on YouTube. We can't obviously manage that platform, but what we can do is add you to our email list. So go to our website, which is nodoubtaboutitpodcast.com. Sign up to get our email. We only email with the links to the new shows. So that's one way you'll never miss our show. So we'd appreciate if you did that.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.